have our fifth session, a panel discussion on unlocking AI startup growth in India, infrastructure, innovation, and scale. May I request on stage Mr. Gaurav Arora, COO, Jagran New Media, Mr. Harish Neela, Data Science, Geo Financial Services, Mr. Prashant Pandey, Global Head, Unicorn Startups Business Neysa, Mr. Rishabh Bardia, Vice President, Premji Invest. This panel discussion is moderated by Ms. Chandra R. Srikanth, Executive Editor, Technology in Startups, moneycontrol.com. Please join me in welcoming them with a round of applause.
Hi everyone. Do we have all the speakers on stage? So Gaurav's here, Prashant, great, and Harish, right? Okay, great. Hello everyone. The scope of the panel is pretty broad and wide-ranging. It says unlocking AI startup growth in India, infra, innovation and scale. And I think we have all the layers on stage, the infra layer, the consumption layer, the innovation layer, and the person who's going to fund all these layers sitting here.
You need to stack this layer properly and kick out the investor layer for now.
No, the media layer needs to be kicked out first. All of you will still be relevant. But thank you so much for joining us for this discussion. Before we dive in, on unlocking AI startup growth, we just wanted to get a sense of where we are when it comes to AI startups in India. There's obviously been a lot of focus in Silicon Valley because of the amount of capital that's getting raised, that's getting guzzled there. There's also been the sense that many AI founders in India have moved to the US because it's easier to raise money there. They're also closer to customers. But are we seeing a reversal in trend now? Because increasingly when I speak to investors, they tell me that there are many interesting use case startups coming up in India, be that at the companion apps or health apps or other things. Maybe you can start, Rishabh, with what trends you're seeing on ground, because Premji Invest has been pretty active when it comes to AI investments in the US.
Yes.
But what's the sense that you're getting from India? Has that shift happened?
I think the trend of people going to the US for raising capital and also building their companies is still there and will continue to be that. Mainly because the infrastructure companies are being built there, the capital availability is easy, and a lot of these AI use cases are very global in nature. A lot of them, not all of them. So therefore, people find it easy, and wherever capital is available and risk capital is available even more freely, people will definitely migrate to that. And also the policies of US compared to India are so much different. In India, if you even have to start up, all the builders will know it will be very tough. And in US, capital raising becomes easy, hiring the right talent becomes easy. And the most important thing is your customers, initial customers. India has this friction of not adopting things very fast, the enterprises, right? So in US, people are more open. So you can get why people are going to the US is because of the faster iterative loop that is created over there for startups. And in India, that's not possible right now. And I think US will have that edge for long. But what we are seeing in India is India has its own set of problems and own set of challenges. We are multilingual, for example. Therefore, you see a lot of voice AI companies coming up and all of them doing very well. We have seen Bajaj FinServ's annual report also, and they've spoken about voice AI in detail and how it's impacting their book for lending, etc. So I think India has an advantage, and now that the infrastructure layer, the middleware layer, and all are set up, India has a very good advantage in building that application layer, and we are seeing builders building for India specific use cases. And by the way, India is becoming a large business. India only use cases can also become very large businesses, and also it will have applicability to other developing nations as well. So we are seeing a lot of good companies coming out in various different application layers, and I think Sir will speak more about this. but we are seeing good companies coming out of India. So there will be good activity in India going forward. At least I'm anticipating in 2026, where you'll see a lot of consumer AI companies, even non-consumer B2B AI companies also getting a lot of investment and traction together.
Right. In fact, even the economic survey, which was just released a few minutes ago, talks about how India, should expend more energy on the application layer and not so much on building and deploying frontier scale models, which is already happening on a very large scale in the US. But they've said that, we can take learnings from the sovereign models that the Indian government has picked. So I think it'll sort of be a combination of both. But coming to the infra layer, your company Neysa is in the AI cloud, new cloud space. What does that mean? What has the adoption been? What trends are you picking up?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Rishabh. Before we start, all of you know OpenAI, right?
Yeah.
Do we know which cloud it was built on? Any guess in the room? Sure. Any guess where OpenAI was built?
Video.
AWS?
I would
Google,
assume
what you
Azure
said?
because Microsoft, NVIDIA.
Then we don't sound do you
Got it. So there's a company called CoreWeave. Right?
Cool.
You all know that.
Yeah.
Where I'm going to was that we are learning from ourselves. The moment we say that where was this built, it is cloud, it has to be Azure, Google, or the third one, AWS. But the fact is that, and I'm going back to your question, how AI evolved. So when you build AI, there are three things required. First is building a foundational model. So when you build a model, the infrastructure biggest company was CoreWeave in US around 10, 15 years back. But not many in the world have the appetite except China to invest in those resources where you can gestate the deep research. Once you build the model, you train it, and you do for inferencing. So when we started inferencing now with OpenAI after 10, 14 years, we all know that it works on Google, AWS, and so on and so forth. So where we are, we started as a company who started to focus on the new kind of workload, which is AI. And there are three things you do on AI. You build model, you train model, you infer model. And to do all this at the way it has to be done for SaaS, you need a layer in between called AI PaaS. So we started focusing on building a platform called Velocis, and that has got recognition to a point that I'm not sure, again, fun fact, we are in Asia, one of the top 100 countries to look for. There are only 18 in India, 18 from India, right? And you have seen our founder getting recognized for the vision. So I'm complimenting what Rishabh said. You need two things to build a company. One, people, and second, resource. And I'm resonating with him that when you have to build something of the CoreWeave sort, you need people who understand the science. So all the way from our founder, Sharad and Andy, I have worked in whole of Asia for the last 20 years, and we are doing this in India, and I'm more thankful to the people. When I focus on unicorn and the startup verticals. Look at what fintechs are doing. Brilliant work, right? I've heard from many countries that what our Perfios and JustPays could do or PhonePays could do, it can't be done in the world by anyone right now, right? Look at health tech, for example, what Cure is doing. Look at space tech, for example, Galaxy. Rishabh and myself were talking about a chip company in Bangalore right now. And not to mention Voice, Smallest, Arrowhead. So people like you are aspirational, have inspiration, and when you want to build an idea, of course, you can go for money where the money is. But if I have to draw a parallel, I go back to China because they started 10 years ahead of us. And look at the things that they built which went everywhere in the world. So they're both the mindset, whether you want to be a consumer economy or a developer economy. I'm seeing India is becoming a developer economy. I can see the heads nodding. Many of you are developing things, startups, unicorns, and it's bound to grow. So to answer your question, we are empowering all the dreams which are getting built because we call ourselves home to your AI.
Gaurav, let me come to the use case layer and the consumption layer. You're in a very, in an industry that's constantly getting disrupted. I'm also part of the same industry. And I think in the last 6 months, the biggest challenge for media companies has been a complete drop in traffic thanks to AI overviews. That's sort of killed the core bread and butter, or rather is disrupting the core bread and butter business. As one of India's largest publishers, that has significant presence in the Hindi heartland, how have you sort of adapted to AI as a publisher? What are you doing at the back end, front end? What are your reporters doing differently? Give us a sense of that.
So great. Like Prashant said, there's a consumer side, there's a developer side. There has to be somebody implementing it. So we are the implementation guys. And friends, whatever you guys develop, we try and take it into our products and see how can we make our products better, right? So we are in the publishing business. So news and information happen to be our forte. We publish multiple websites, and the topic here is about the startups and unlocking AI, the startups. So where do we fit in? We are still in the internet business, so we pivot very fast, right? I mean, I may be a traditional media company with a legacy of 80 years, but the digital business that we operate pivots every week, maybe more frequently than that, right? There's a lot of changes that we have to implement. And last 2 years, whatever experiments that we've been doing with AI have made things a lot easier for us, right? 4 use cases to start with. We don't create any content using AI. We curate and we edit.
Thank God you don't
Yeah.
create content.
Absolutely not. That just kills what we do best, right? Part 2 is the engagement and personalization. So when the users are there on my website, how do I get them to consume more and showcase more relevant content to them? Part 3 is the operational efficiency. How do I do more with lesser number of people and do it better? And 4th is obviously, the reporting part, the compliance part, all of that. Anything that can be automated should be automated, right? So what has happened in last year or so, doing all of these things, now between these 4, there are multiple use cases that I may have.
Yeah.
Doing all of this put together, so the top funnel, like you said, has been, shrinking for about a year or so now. So to maintain our impressions, P&Ls, all of that, you need to, have people who are coming onto your site to consume more just to maintain wherever you were about a year back, right? So from that perspective, we've been able to maintain that, but without increasing the cost in terms of the number of people and all of that, right? My loyal user audience base has been increasing by 40%, compared to a last year. My return users has increased by 160% compared to a last year.
What is working for you?
So a lot of things, right, in the back end.
Yeah, Rishabh, you want to act?
Your users are going to him.
No,
It's-
I hope not.
those-
We are in very different cohorts.
Yeah. I mean, and it's not just me. You talk to any media house, and I think most of us are doing our own experiments. Can be similar as well. The implementations can be slightly different, but the core here is how do we do more with costs being restrictive, and how do we produce better content, right? That's the idea,
Yeah, in terms of media consumption, we've seen a huge shift to videos, right,
Yeah.
from text.
Yeah.
Is AI? Are you able to leverage AI for that? Are you using
There-
tools like
it's a writing on the wall, right? I mean, the text is going to go down, right? I mean, think of yourself. Do you have the same concentration ability that you used to have 5 years back or 10 years back? It's simply not the case because your mind's so tuned to, disliking and moving away from a, post, reel, whatever, in less than a second, right? So same comes to, do we have the capacity to read 500, 800 words at a stretch when we write a long form article? So that's dipping, and with the newer generation coming in, these are the kids who are born and brought up with phones, right? There's so much, and major mode for them has been the video. So legacy publishers like us who were essentially writing content have to pivot very quickly to the video bandwagon. And we've done that, in our own capacity. But creating videos at scale has been a challenge, right? And it's a long process to create a, 5-minute, editorial video. So how do we do that? So we've been doing a bunch of experiments, bunch of tools which can put together videos for me at scale. So classic example, breaking news happens. You would see that all the news apps and the websites that you go on, the editors have anything between from the time they get the news, they have to write a article in 5-7 minutes because the speed recency becomes a critical parameter to be monitored. While the news is being typed and written in 500 words, how do I put together a 1-minute video right along with that so that the article when it goes up also has a audiovisual explanation, because people would want to look at that, right? I mean, think of yourself, to the audiences here. If there is a choice, same content between an audiovisual and a story, what would you click or read? Obviously, you go to. So how do we do videos at scale? So earlier we were doing probably 30 to 40 videos a day. Now our capacity is scaled to 100 videos a day.
This is because of AI.
Implementation of various AI modules that we have. Some of them. So we develop on our own. So we take a LLM and then we do our own customizations on top of that. Tweak our prompts, see what the results are. And all of this has to happen without the content looking synthetic, right? It has to come out natural content because everybody is so sensitized to good content now, right? Anything which is lower production value is not right. You just skip it very quickly. So to increase engagement, to increase time spent, to keep people coming back to you, all of it has to happen at scale. All of that has to happen fast and has to be showcased at the right relevant time. So a lot of things, right? So and all of this, and not to say, when there was no AI band, we were not doing this. We were doing it by different things. That it used to take more time. The experiments took longer to be declared as a success or a failure. Now it's far more simpler. So it's changed a lot. And this responsibility, it's a organization responsibility, not just one people, two people, or an AI team that is doing that. Of course, we have one or two people who decide on the use cases, but then it's joint. The implementation is jointly done between the tech, product, and the editorial, right? So all of this, there's lots and lots that I can speak about, I think. Any question, happy to answer in
Harish,
specific that you want to have.
Now we'll go to Harish from Geo Financial Services, the challenger fintech on the block. How is AI again helping you, Harish, in terms of the way you build and scale Geo Financial Services? Because you're going up against the big guns, in a number of businesses. But how are you leveraging data science in AI?
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Because you have you are starting a little later, and you can now think AI first while building this. How are you thinking and building differently by being AI first?
Absolutely.
Without any legacy, actually. Yeah.
Right. I think you're right. I think we are the latest entrant into the market, which is have the big giants in place, right? So, and you will not survive if you do things the old way, right? Let's say, for example, take lending. Lending has evolved from paper-based applications to digital, one click. But now if you want to acquire more customers, it has to be different, right? And from an Indian economy or Indian landscape perspective, things are also changing, right? People need simple things, trustable things, right? So what at Geo Financial Services, what we are focusing on, how do you make things simple, makes fast, makes trustable, right? We just want to be that one which works at the background, make sure I'm giving right services, right trustable services, so that customer just needs to come, say something, apply something, and then it's instant, right? Because that's the lever which you can play with, and that will give you the most user trust and acquisition. In terms of what we are doing differently, right? I think there are multiple things we are doing differently, and that's, I think, being a late entrant also gives you that benefit, right? You don't carry a lot of legacy. So we do a lot of things in AI, right? So if you think about what matters for an enterprise, 2-3 things, right? One, can I build things cheaper, right? So that I can transfer that cost effectively back to customers. Can I build products very quickly, right? For example, let's say if you want to build a digital journey, it used to take 15-20 days for build. I mean, I think I'm also taking a very demanding number, and then it goes to rounds of testing, UAT, SIT, and I think a lot of startups will relate to this, and then user testing, and then you do a production launch. And then, of course, there are a lot of problems in terms of cost, so on and so forth, right? But what AI has done now is, you don't need to go to that cycle from entirely, right? You can build things from a matter of 15 to 20 days in 2 to 3 days, right? Because you don't need to code every word. Now, a lot of automation code exists, which you can write a prompt, you can make sure that that entire product gets built. You can also do an AI-based testing now, right? Where you can simulate a lot of users, you can simulate a lot of test cases, and then you can actually make sure the product works well. Of course, there is an element always from a user-based testing, but from in 60 days to 90 days, you can actually build cycle to 15, 20 days now, right? That gives you a benefit in terms both from a cost perspective and also faster to market, right? And if you do these things rightly, enterprises will also benefit, and that is the major focus for us. At the same time, customers will also get benefit because it's cost effective, and I think as a consumer, they just need cost effective at an highest experience, and experience is also something which can be driven by AI, right? Because what has happened in this entire AI space is, and also I think government had played an fantastic role in building this digital public infrastructure, right? Initially, you used to fill 15, 20 forms. Now you don't need to fill that form, right? They can give consent, lot of digital public infrastructure presence. You can fetch in data, fill in forms, matter of hours to matter of minutes, right? So, and how do you do all of this effectively, cost effective? Because AI has an element of cost, and that is the most understated element. So if you do all of this cost effectively, then yes, as an enterprise, being a late entrant, that gives us super benefit, and also for a consumer. And as long as consumers trust us, consumers are getting that experience, I think it's just a matter of time before any late entrant becomes really big.
Right. Just a quick follow-up, Harish. If I look at the fintech space, the cost of onboarding, speed of onboarding, it's already significantly down because of eKYC and UPI and so on. So what can the alpha be for you? Because customers to some extent, are used to getting very good fintech services in India. So what will the alpha be? Will it be from, personalization, building out very, user-specific features? Just trying to understand where will that differentiation come for you?
So two things in my view, right? One, still discovery is a problem in India, right? For example, let's say I want to take a credit card. Which credit card I have to take? I think there are probably hundreds of 200 credit cards.
But people who have credit cards have too many credit cards.
But you can have AI, because we can tell you what is the most optimizing credit card, which actually gives you benefits, right? So discovery is still a problem, which is actually a good thing and bad thing. And the edge will be, how can you make sure customer knows that what is that right product for him? Loans, there are multiple, right? There are hundreds of lenders. I don't think hundreds, but limited set of lenders. But and everyone works in their interest, right? How do you make sure that we all work towards the customer interest? And if you solve these problems through AI, right? And this is a solvable problem through AI. So one element is, you earning customer trust. So just making sure the discoverability timeline is reduced. In terms of all of this, so discovery is sorted. Now when the customer is getting acquired, there are few things from a regulation you have to do, KYC, so on and so forth. But you can do a lot of this intelligently, right? For example, you can have a co-pilot which is sitting with you, where a lot of details you gave in the first and a lot of these gets filled, and customer doesn't need to spend a lot of time. You can pre-fill a lot of these applications, right? And as long as you are making sure customer journey is not, for a lack of better word, irritating or time consuming, then you are through, right?
Got it. And I think customer service is where a lot of AI is being used, like what Bajaj FinServ said. And I think even platforms like Ixigo are increasingly relying on that.
Right. And it all, from an acquisition to engagement to customer servicing, everything can be AI driven. So engagement is also, as everyone is saying, personalizable. And without personalization, you cannot survive in this space. And that should be the biggest moat for everyone.
Got it. Rishabh, as an investor evaluating this space, what excites you about the AI scene in India right now? Like in the next 12 months, if you have to do 5 deals, in what spaces will it be? If I look at your US portfolio, you're there in Hippocratic AI and Poolside, and I think also you're also a shareholder on Canva, because that's a bet on the creator economy being powered by AI. But from an India lens, what excites you from a 12-month perspective? If you have to do 5 deals, in what segments will they be?
Yeah, that's crystal gazing. That's it'll be great. Actually,
I'm sure you're already evaluating some.
yeah, sure. So I think Chandra, the first thing is you need to think about the kind of specific advantages that India has, right? Which is population, which is the whole ecosystem of digital infrastructure being created. And third, which India does not have an advantage is in data. Most of our data today is with Google or any other hyperscaler. India does not capture its own data, and that is with all the hyperscalers. So,
But the government is trying to do.
Yes.
That's one of the pillars of the India AI mission.
Exactly. Now let's see how much it can do, and then you have to convince hyperscalers not just to come to India, but also give training data to other LLM providers. So it will be very tough, I believe. But I mean, you might have some perspectives on that. Well, I'm excited about where a startup has been able to crack a good and a specific proprietary data that they can train on, and also has created a flywheel. That becomes very important. And the use cases where I'm seeing and where I'm most excited about is where can you unlock a new user? Like for example, Harish mentioned about the user journey being seamless, but probably it can happen that you can now underwrite people who could not be underwritten, right? Because how I think about AI is an extended brain and a scalable brain given to you, right? Earlier it was summarization, for example, but now it truly has the capability to give you recommendations, right? And also obviously AI naturally converts unstructured data to structured data. So if I take those two, basic premise of AI and apply it to various other use cases in banking and financial services or in healthcare or in education, then, there is so much that India can offer to its end customers at a cheap rate. And AI has to be very, very cheap in India. And that's where, hyperscalers like Neysa will play. Data centers companies like Neysa will play in. That AI needs to be very cheap, delivered very cost effectively, and should have some kind of built-in loop to improve itself to serve the end customers. And it can be in any sector. So I'm excited about almost all the sectors where this can happen. I'm looking at these specific things to be in place where, startup can, or a founder can pitch that vision and show some, action on
When
that
you say
front.
AI needs to be very cheap, you mean the startups working on offerings or use cases around this space?
Yes.
Because
So,
if
okay.
you look at the LLMs themselves, I mean,
Yeah.
if you look at what a Gemini is trying to do, OpenAI is trying to do,
Yeah.
Perplexity is trying to do, India's, they want to, it's like a user-based
Yeah.
hub for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
I mean, they are among the biggest advertisers now
Yeah.
also.
They want more and more data,
Yeah,
harness more and
yeah,
more data
yeah.
for their
Correct.
proprietary LLMs to become even better. What I mean by AI needs to be cheap is that
It's
it
a
has to
DAO
be
farm,
served,
as they say.
yeah,
Yeah.
served at scale. So the end application needs to be cheap enough. For that to happen, inferencing needs to be cheap. Probably training needs to be cheap as well. And how it will be is not just combination of it will be a combination of optimizing the use case, optimizing at the model layer, and probably optimizing at the inferencing and data center layer also, where I think, your 2 cents will really help. Yeah.
Yeah, give us perspective on that, the optimization that we are seeing on the inferencing and data center layer.
Okay.
In terms of the
Can I
cost,
add to
yeah,
this and
sure.
then I'll come to
sure,
the cost question.
Sure.
So, okay, it's a question to everybody. How many people you need to make a unicorn?
How many people you need?
Need in a company to make a unicorn?
In an AI era, I would imagine less than 10 or 5.
How close you are.
Yeah.
And they're testaments. If you go and search that the latest in last 12 months, the number of unicorns which has been created and have less than 300 people, there are many of them, right?
Yeah.
Almost 20, 30 of them. And that goes to 2 points. One is the value of cost, which I agree with. There are other 2 values which also you need to think of. The second value is time, right? Time to build things. Most of us are developer. So if you look at MIT, the biggest thing they're saying is that if you want to write a code, generative coding agent is the thing for you. So you reduce your time to build things, right? And third thing, which we often don't talk about, is quality. I'll give you an example of it. Let's take the example of lending. We are cheaper. I need a small loan. That's the cost problem. Now look at the time problem. I want a loan 365 days, 24/7. Can I call somebody to take it? Perhaps most of the Gen Zs are doing it. You go to Paytm and you or an app and the 50,000 available, you buy it and take it.
Yeah.
Right? On the supply side, can they give loan 365 24/7? There are few who can. There are few who can't. Now let's go to the next level. Imagine that our friend creates an AI agent. It runs 365, 247, 24/7 across the world. There are 8 billion people in the world. And the agent is going asking everybody that, do you need loan? Do you need loan? Do you need loan? Do you need loan? We might be sleeping, or right now the people in America are sleeping, but we are awake, and vice versa. On our side, imagine when we are sleeping, we have an agent who's looking at it, who is giving me the best loan amongst all of them. So when I wake up, I go and say, okay, I have the best loan from my friend, I will take it. And that will be the third place where quality will matter, because whenever you lend anything, doesn't matter, it's knowledge, it's value, it's code, your services, product, it has to be done. And there are many examples of that. I'm not just saying like that. If you look at FTX as a platform, they ran 365, 24/7 across the globe. And they were at one point in time transacting more than what a stock exchange could do. Korea, for example, typically in India also a stock exchange works from 9 to 5, right? But Korea changed one of the stock exchange timing from 6 to 8 or something like that, which is more than our office hours. Otherwise, I have to trade when I'm on work. But imagine the stock exchange open from 6 to 8. What happened in Korea? 30% of the stock market value moved to this platform. So where I'm coming to is that, and that's what we are demystifying a lot. The first thing with AI is the problem we are trying to solve. The problem, first of all, if you make in India and you make for India, I promise you, you can solve for the world.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Right? And second point of the cost of inferencing. Whenever you use any Gemini, or how many of you are using Gemini? Do you know what is the quantization of the Gemini? Quantization is basically, it's not written anywhere. He's guessing, right? So quantization is what? Basically, you take a big model, make it smaller so that the quality is a function of how small it is, right? And the cost comes down. So these are the gimmicks which happen at the layer of tech. But to do that, we have to go and an engineer unearth the whole thing that, hey, what is the quantization? What's the KV cache size and blah, 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 and this comes down. We do in, day out with our customers. And what we are trying to say that as an engineer, when you build, first thing is, if I'm you, I would go and find the big problem that I'm trying to solve. That's how you look at it when you fund. Second is that what does my design look like? Third, if I want to start, there are many credits available. I'm talked to almost 2,000 startups that run there. But I see that they die after 3 months because they don't have a revenue generation model. And revenue generation model is a function of you adapting yourself. So I started an anti-credit program. Because when I go to our startups, I said, hey, what you are trying to do? Does your model look like?
Okay.
Can we do that tech? Can we optimize it? Are you going to make money in 3 months? And if you make money, whatever you make, your cost has to be lower than that so that you're profitable. I don't want the startups to die because your business model is not right. I don't want you to be in debt because you are taking cash and burning things. And all, I mean, he knows more than me because this all boils down to how you're designing the system and how, whom are you working with. So if any one of you are trying to do, say, inferencing or model training, free of cost if you want to understand that how the science of this stack works, I do it day in, day out. And that's what we need to do more with people, because unless you're educated on that, you'll not be able to design system, and we'll just get to the trap of cheap, but there's nothing cheap and free in the world, right?
Got it. You want to add some? Yeah.
So basically all of this, right? For example, you cannot control a foundation model layer, which is API, right? And as you said, right, these are the levers which you can use to reduce the cost. And cost of the inferencing is an understated word, because that is what kills enterprises, kills startups, right? And most of these startups do work with the cloud players where, all of these are customizable parameters. And as you said, it needs a know-how of what to do, right? But are you seeing a trend where all of this can be commoditized, right? Let's say I have a use case and I'll say just maybe reading a document, right? And can it be a package, right? Well, I'll say use case, this is my context, this is my prompt token, so on and so forth. You tell me what is the best model, what is the best technique I have to use, and I don't need to worry about all of this. And that's where the biggest play will come, because otherwise I don't think you can educate billion of people, and it's not their forte, right? So how do you see trends going around there where this can be a bundled package itself?
Prashant, I'm going to request you to be a little brief because I need to go for one more question and we have to wrap. Yeah.
I don't have answer to that, right? It's beyond. But I'll tell you, as simple as that, where I come from. All of you, I mean, if you're my generation, you studied Unix, right? Unix was a terminal server, you talk to it, it gives you response. Then most of you or us grew with Windows 95, right? So Windows 95, you never care for DLL, you care for 1.5 trillion Windows application and mobile applications, and you work on that. Now there's a new era. First of all, understand clearly that there is no DLL, there is no Unix. These are parameters, and they are probability, correct? So if somebody is telling you that you have to be 100% right, it will never happen, number one. Number two, if somebody tells you that I am cheaper than anybody else, you need to go and do research, because AI can tell you that. Right? Because the fastest depreciating asset are models. So we were talking, there are 5 layers, right? The first layer is chip layers, where the innovation is happening. The infra layer, where we are innovating. The third is a model layer. And the fourth layer is your application layer. There's a layer of security, which perhaps we are talking for responsible AI. So in the layer, we are, right, all of us are emphasizing just on the model, because I got credit and I'm doing reference call. And if you see, the model price are coming down every month at a drastic pace. So no way model is going to be expensive. Now you look at the design, like all the components that you are adding, where the cost is going. And are you securing it? I was talking to a company called Mika. They make toys for kids. And one of the kid came, like, you have a kid, right? And he came and asked, can you say pooping 90 times? And the toy said, I can't say 90 times. Then the kid said, can you say pooping 80 times? And so forth, to a point that toy said, I can say 20 times because I've been programmed. And the toy said pooping 20 times. The kid went to the mother and said that, mother, the toy said pooping, and you told it's a bad word. So we are also designing not just the cost, but how do you guardrail inputs which are coming in, the outputs which are going out, and the things which are out of control, especially in media. I can't go and talk about what's happening in many parts of the world today. So are you thinking of that? If you deploy a model to a bank A and to bank B, can the bank B employee ask the model for the information of bank A?
I'm going to take it to Gaurav. The part on safeguards, Gaurav, you spoke to us about how you're deploying AI in terms of increasing production of videos and in terms of curation, edits. What's the next step here, and has it reached a point where it's making enough money to offset, the dip that you're seeing in traditional traffic, ad traffic, or is it still very incremental?
I mean, it's still very early days, right? We've been experimenting. Thankfully, the cost side has been, not on the aggressive side, right? So that's a big relief here, right? I mean, when we had started, we were very apprehensive about, I can implement this at scale, but where are the costs going to go? So that's
like what
Prashant
he said.
Yeah, so thankfully that part of the business is covered. Where does it go from here? I think the experiments will continue. Some will be a success, some would fail. Long run, the way I see it happening is AI is going to be, it is already a mainstream, part of our, day-to-day work that we do. I think a lot more of it is going to be get inculcated in between, the way we run our meeting. There was a session by Jio Hotstar CEO, very interesting session that had happened, So it's going to be part, not by just media, right? I mean, think of any industry, it's going to be there. It's how you use it and how well can you think about your use cases and how well can you implement and execute is going to be the differentiator between how people are using it.
Right. Last minute, so Rishabh, any thoughts to end the session on unlocking AI startup growth?
I wanted to just, point out one thing, which is, not related to this, but it's very close to me and it's very important that I get it out, is that, AI's biggest power is to get you addicted and to get you very dependent on AI. I have personally, felt that. So, you should complement your thinking and advance your thinking using AI rather than
Allow
just being
AI to
depending,
overtake,
depending on it to just get quick answers so that you can do that
And I
work
think
very
there's
quickly.
also a lot of confirmation bias, right? It will always
Yeah.
tell you that you're right
Yeah, yeah.
about
Correct.
your assumptions.
Correct. So I've gone through that cycle, and now I'm using AI. I used to, kind of almost at some point in time, I outsourced my work and some of my thinking to AI. Luckily, the results were not that good, so it tended me quickly to, use it as a tool to, complement my thinking rather than do the thinking for me. And it's very important that everyone uses AI properly.
It's good to know that we are not at that level of AGI. Yeah.
How do you tell that to the kids today? It's very difficult for them. I
Yes.
look at my kid, 14, 15 years, in
Yeah.
the teens, just heavily dependent on, for everything and anything that happens,
So,
There's always
so
a check.
luckily, sir, my kid is 6 years old and 2 years old, so I don't have that problem.
Yeah, so
We
you'll
just
have
keep them
different
all.
Yours is
prob-
going to be tougher.
You'll have different problems, like keeping them away from Roblox and
Yeah. That we've been able to do, right? And if I have to, I was actually speaking to Prashant. So, probably, things like spirituality or things which might, give meaning to your life will become very important in the future and current. So, in current generation also, we are tending our kids to, become that, because it takes time away from all these social media distraction and think and internalize things and think for yourself. So I think that will
Got
become
it.
very important.
On that note, thank you all very much. Brilliant insights across layers and aspects of AI. Thank you very much, and thank you for being a great audience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Check. Kindly join us for the group picture. Thank you, speakers, for a thoughtful session and insights. Before we depart to the lunch break, let me take a moment to acknowledge the partners who have made IDS 2026 possible. Presenting partner Jio Hotstar, co-powered by National Payments Corporation of India and Get ePay in association with Meta. Ladies and gentlemen, lunch will be served from 1:30 p.m. to 2:15 p.m. in the pre-function area. Please be back in the conference hall at 2:10 p.m. sharp. Thank you so much.